Hi, I'm Eileen, and I am a conservative Christian.
Hey there, I'm Kolby, and I'm a leftist Protestant-ish.
So to start off, I was going to ask the both of you what brought you to Interfaith Dialogue and the Church Lab.
Yeah, so for me, my answer is pretty simple. It's Carrie. Carrie being someone in a position of leadership that kind of shares values with me in a way that I hadn't seen previously in any figurehead within a church setting. The things that Carrie encourages dialogue around writ large would have been labeled too controversial and something to be hushed under all my previous experiences in church settings. So it's that non-traditional aspect of finding worship elsewhere, and in those hard conversations that kind of keeps bringing me back as well. It's that threaded line of what really has turned into family, and the ability for sustained growth through these conversations kind of amazes me every single time. It's not something that ever gets old. It's not something that I ever step into a dialogue setting and I don't walk away either learning something new or feeling challenged on something that I thought was a concrete belief. And that's just not something you're able to find, particularly now in American and Western society, elsewhere.
And I came to Interfaith Dialogue through my friend Janan, who I know from high school. She's a Sunni Muslim, and one day she asked me to join this dialogue with our other Muslim friend from high school who's Shia Muslim. And I was totally surprised when Janan asked me because she never wanted to talk about religion before. So anyways, I was intrigued, and Carrie, Janan, Almas, and someone who is Latter-day Saints, Church of the Latter-day Saints, Jesus Christ, they joined us as well. So we just met at a coffee shop, and from there it grew.
So the coffee shop thread, that's Thunderbird Coffee, the second weekend that I lived in Austin. That's where I was corralled. That's where I was hooked by Carrie.
We met at Spider House, I think.
Yeah,
that was fun. Mm-hmm.
I don't think I realized that that the dialogues occurred in a cafe setting before.
That was our first meeting.
Never heard that.
For her to pitch the idea, and it is kind of funny too, right? Like Eileen's talking about Spider House. We know Carrie's affinity for Starbucks. For someone that doesn't drink coffee, all of these interactions beginning in coffee houses. And kind of dragging us along into this TCL experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we moved to the home setting so that we could talk more openly, I guess. We're not afraid of other listeners listening to our conversation. We've had several instances where they have made comments after, and usually they're positive, but folks were surprised that people were listening. So
yeah, there is a certain privacy that is offered by the opportunity to go to a place where the only people who are there for dialogue. The cafe thing, that does pose a challenge. I guess unless there's a private room or something like that you could reserve, but just out in the main space. Eileen, what keeps you coming back for dialogue?
I would say definitely the friendships. Like Kolby said, it's just you're coming back to talk to your friends. So it's been nice that some of us have been able to do stuff outside dialogue. I know Ollie came to my birthday dinner 2 years ago, I think. And then I had a game night at my house, and Andrea came, and I think there's another person. So it's just nice to talk to your friends every other week.
Yeah, that makes sense. Have either of you, in addition to dialogue, TCL has other activities. Which of those, or have you been involved in any of those, either of you?
Yeah, we've done some things with Carrie and I share a hometown, not only hometown, but a hometown church where we both kind of grew up in the church a few years apart. But we've done some hometown initiatives for disaster relief and things like that. And then I'm involved in one of the small groups settings of the church lab called Chortle. I don't even remember how we came up with that name. I think it involved a turtle for some reason. Couldn't tell you. But that just shows like the weird little family that we've carved out here. So Chortle is kind of like a small group of Christian Protestant-ish perspective. I often kind of refer to it as therapy of sort for free. So that's nice. Because we know how expensive therapy can get out there. But it is kind of an outlet with a trusted circle to kind of boundlessly talk about what's going on in your life. Carrie always makes sure to end the sessions with where do you see God in that, much to someone who, falls in the ish perspective more often than not. My chagrin, she always makes us answer, but it is good practice to kind of center and bring us back to that perspective. So yeah, Chortle is my main focus outside of the dialogue settings.
And I've been involved with some community volunteering. I think Interfaith Group / TCL was the group who brought me to the Community First Village, which is one of the first communities in the nation that has homes for people who are homeless. And I think it was modeled similar to some, a community in Portland, but I think the one in Austin is a bit more unique. And so that was my first experience with Community First Village. I think we did some gardening there. That was nice to get to know neighbors in the Austin area and how we can support local communities. And I've been involved with Advent Conspiracy a few times, not too many times, but that is where we as a group decide on a few organizations to give money to during Advent, during that season. And so that has also been fun as well to participate in.
For the two of you, what has been your favorite TCL moment?
I can't say one, but I have to say that most of my favorite TCL moments involves like something that we do as a group that's not dialogue necessarily related. Potlucks. I love our potlucks that we have occasionally. We haven't been doing them as often, but and then we used to do more often movie nights where we'd watch a movie and then based on dialogue specific, and we have dialogue afterwards. So those are my favorite TCL moments, like getting together to just enjoy one another.
Yeah, I agree. There's not any one thing that I can point to. There's a few. I think for me, it's oftentimes my favorite parts are the ones in which like society tells you that the gulfs between your opinion and the others are just too vast for you to even attempt that conversation. So a few times over the years, we've done dialogue centered around abortion and pro-choice, pro-life. And myself as someone who serves on a reproductive justice board, and Eileen who serves in pro-life capacities, we've been able to have those conversations in a respectful manner. And I often tell the story when we were doing a sign drop over I-35 to repeal the Hyde Amendment. And I saw Eileen down below and later found out that it was indeed her. So it's kind of, we couldn't be further apart on the issue, and yet we still find a commonality in the discussion. And so that's, largely a part of, I'm sure, why, this pairing occurred, is because of that unique bond that Eileen and I have been able to forge while, politically and on issues of social matters. The gulf is certainly there, but the respect and the intentionality to forming a relationship in which those can be discussed in a manner that I know at the end of the night, Eileen's not leaving with hurt feelings, and neither am I, is something that is kind of exactly what TCL is supposed to be about, right? And then the third that comes up for me is definitely the most important dialogue I've ever been a part of. I can't remember if you were there, Eileen. I think you were. Was the Israeli-Palestine dialogue, and we had Palestinian representation, and we actually had a member of the dialogue group who did mandatory service in the Israeli armed forces. Both of those were represented in this dialogue, and I don't know that I said a word that night. Like I can't recall if I gave really any input into the situation, though I certainly feel strongly on the issue. But quietness isn't my standard operating procedure. But I kind of felt the weight of the marginalization that was represented in the room, and I just couldn't bring myself to insert kind of a more worldview steeped in privilege that's never had to directly confront issues such as that weigh so heavily and have are a matter of life and death. So that one was definitely the most impactful, and I didn't really need to contribute much to it other than stepping into the room and with an open mind and open heart.
Mm-hmm. I think we sort of covered a bit of this ground. So to some extent, if you don't have anything else to add on this one, just say so. But one of the other things that I've been asking folks as I talk to them is why they think TCL is important. I think we've gotten a little bit of that already, but if there's anything else you wanted to add, definitely feel free.
I think for me, the reason TCL is important to me personally is that I can learn to dialogue instead of debate. When I first started at TCL, I was definitely in a debative, I was more debative back then, but through Carrie and interfaith and TCL, I've really learned to, dialogue and listen instead of debate. So that's one very important thing that I've learned. And then also, I think through TCL, I get to hear things that are important to people who might hold different beliefs than I do. So it's good to know other people's perspectives, because I might not get that information from my friend group or anywhere else. So I think TCL is a good resource for me in that respect. And also, I can't remember what else I was going to say. You can cut that out.
Yeah, if it comes to you, just jump on in.
Cool.
Kolby, anything?
Yeah, I mean, we have covered a little bit of it, but I think really more than ever, right? It's not that, 4 years ago or 5 years ago, I didn't understand the gravity and the importance of dialogue, but over the last 4 or 5 years, I think we've seen we're pretty solidly stuck in an era of division and silos. And I think it's important to me to kind of find the little moments in life of like solidarity in the face of discussing some of the most pressing issues of our time. And like, don't get me wrong, the disagreements are real, right? And that's why we're there. But it is, it's an all too uncommon opportunity to step into an area of disagreement with trusted folks who have a commitment to ensuring that the dialogue remains respectful, and that while certainly you want to get in there and get your point across, right? But more importantly, and that's drilled into our head by way of our ground rules, is the ability to seek to understand before being understood. And we all have such a commitment to that, that it very rarely, I can think, I don't even need, a full one hand, right, of the amount of times in which that has, in my God, coming up on 10 years, I guess. Oh God, of dialogue. I can't think of many instances in which that's been violated. We just all have such a deep commitment, and that's why so many of us have been here so long. Is that idea that we're kind of all in this for the same thing, and nobody leaves hurt at the end of the night, right? That's the commitment we all make.
Mm. Agreed.
It's beautifully put. Yeah. Why would or do you encourage others to get involved with the Church Lab?
Yeah, I don't know that I have anything else
Sure, that's fine.
to eloquently put it in any way, but it is kind of all the above that we've spoken on, right?
Sure.
It's a unique opportunity. This does not, I didn't know of anyone doing this when I joined, 9-10 years ago, and I still don't know of anyone doing this kind of work, other than, those that have branched off of the work that TCL has done. And Carrie has made it a point to ensure that this sparks conversations elsewhere, and that her goal, I think, is to ensure that more of these groups pop up, and she's replicated that elsewhere. But it's just the ability to kind of step out boldly, but also vulnerably into these conversations and connect with folks who don't share your point of view on them, sometimes pretty vehemently, right? And that's something that I've had to work on, as Eileen stated earlier when she first came in. I'm an organizer, I'm an activist. I pretty solidly believe on a lot of these issues, and I come at it from a perspective of being left of liberal, right? And so this isn't, most of these issues aren't something that I have like a passing opinion on, right? So it is, I've had to also grow into an assurance that we're coming from a respectful place, and that it isn't a debate, just as Eileen said, because that is more my nature. I wouldn't call myself combative, but argumentative might be something you could solidly argue fits the description. So yeah, it's something that I think if we are ever to get past this era of division, dialogue will be a massive part of the toolbox.
Sure.
And I think for me, I guess I could speak more to Christians that might be conservative as to why they, why I would encourage them to get involved, is that I think I told Carrie this one time, that TCL is where I can feel most comfortable sharing my faith without feeling like someone will attack me or judge me, I guess. And so, I can't speak about my faith really at work or besides my church community. This is a place where I can share what I really believe without, feeling attacked. So it is a safe space, and the same thing, just being able to hear other people's perspectives is very important if you're going to live in the world with your neighbors.
Exactly.
Yeah, and two, I mean, kind of to piggyback on that, it's not only, I think, unique that we can step into a room and hold those disagreements, and not walk out wounded every night, but it's more than that, because it's not only that we're stepping in those rooms and not doing damage, right? We are creating sustained growth in relationships. Like I've said before, there are people within TCL that I hold significant views on policy and worldview and whatnot, but if ever the opportunity to fight for one of these individuals, if Eileen ever called, right, I'm ready to brawl, right? Like that's, I have formed relationships that are bigger than the disagreements that we hold. And it does really go to a place of like, if you want chosen family, if you are someone who finds yourself outcast, then we have a space here for you. And it comes with no strings attached. It comes with no preconceived notions as to what you're bringing to the table. And that's just all too uncommon in this world. And it's a space that Austin needs and kind of this world needs for, you to be able to step in with, no contract, no strings attached. It's just so rare these days. And yeah, chosen family is important. And I've vastly expanded that circle in my time with TCL.
I think that that covers the ground that we wanted to tread upon tonight.
Awesome.
So thank you both for taking a little bit of time here out of your evenings to chat, and that'll be that.